episode of Pride to Podcast. We have with us today special guest, Scott Turner Schofield, actor and activist. Welcome to the show, Scott.
Hello.
Hi, Scott. It's so nice to see all your faces. I miss
It's
you.
so good to see you too.
It's been a while.
Gosh, we were hanging out at Pride 2 summers ago now.
Yes, in LA.
In LA. Where are you now? Are you in LA or where are you right now?
I am in Oregon. I have family in Southern Oregon, so I am
Nice.
enjoying the woodsy life.
Yes, I see ya.
So, I mean, first question right off the bat, how are you doing with COVID? How has everything been going? This year has completely switched upside down. You have one of your films that came out this year, so everything's been a little crazy. So how are you doing with COVID and everything?
Yeah, it's been a wild year. When I started the year in January, I got to go to Sundance. I was in a movie that came out there. I traveled like 3 different states in 3 days, and the year was gearing up to be just so much go, 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 go. And then it just quit.
Yeah. It quit for everybody.
Right. I had just started a job.
Oh.
Yeah, 2020 said, ha!
Yeah, they did.
All your plans.
I genuinely thought it was going to be like a 2-week, like, oh, we'll be off for like 2 weeks, maybe a month.
Yeah.
Cut to 6 months now, and here we are.
This is life now.
Well, I hope it's not life, because in other countries, people are, respecting one another and taking care of one another, which is the only thing that our problem is, right? We've
Right.
it, and we're not being kind to ourselves or each other.
Yeah.
But other places, they're doing all right, and it's definitely something we got to manage, but I don't think we're going to be stuck inside forever. I hope not.
Yeah.
We can't.
We can't. We ain't gonna make it.
I mean, at this point, a lot of people are just like, I gotta go. I gotta do stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be as professional as I can, but.
And I'm not going to judge that. I just think we got to be respectful of each other and take care of each other. You wear a mask to protect yourself and other people. Like, it's not hard. You know what I mean? Like,
it really isn't.
It's very interesting. People are actually allowed to go places, but now their big issue is they don't want to wear a mask. They were upset at first because they had to stay in. And now it's like, well, I want to go out, so you can go out. But they're like, I don't want to wear a mask. So it's like, well, what do you want? Like, how do you want to do this?
Well, Nancy, you can't have both, so you got to choose something.
The problem is, typical America, we made it about following rules or not following rules, and Americans don't like to follow rules. Americans like to be exceptional and not follow, I got a doctor's note or whatever nonsense.
Right.
This is very simple science, people. You know what I mean? Like,
very simple. It's not that hard.
Germs are in the air, and they go into your holes in your face, and they get you sick. And then you get sick, or if you don't die, you might kill your grandma or somebody else's grandma. Like, so, it's like our American exceptionalism is making us sick.
Yeah,
seriously. Well, to shift gears real quick, so you just had a project that had dropped. My question for you is when did you want to become an artist? Like, who or what inspired you?
I mean, I was one of those kids my whole life. I was always like blocking the television to act out what was happening on screen. You know what I mean? So forever, I mean, really, it was like I knew as a child that I was a boy, even though no one agreed with me, and that I was a movie star, even though no one could see it yet. You know what I mean?
Amen to that.
That's right.
And here we
are.
How
old were you, Scott, when you realized that you were a boy?
I mean, right. It was my first. The thing that it wasn't so much that I realized I was a boy. It was that I knew who I was, and I could tell there was a disconnect that like nobody else was seeing it, and it was confusing as a small child. Like, I know this is very clear to me. What is y'all's problem? Right? And then having to have that tension all the time, and and it was really damaging. And this is the thing about trans kids is people want to say, oh, they don't know who they are. I'm sorry, 50 million Elvis fans can't be wrong. When you have, like, you can't make up an experience. Like, millions of people say, when I was a kid, from a very young age, I knew this is what it was like. This is what it felt like. This is what I did. I never met another trans kid who told me how to feel that way. I felt that way. until you
Right.
feel like 20 to meet other people who felt that way too. So you can't say that it's like an attention getting thing people make up, you know. It's just a real experience. And there are trans people who, I have a friend who, she, on her 40th birthday, she was real depressed and she didn't understand. She'd been real depressed for a long time and she just didn't understand it. And she was like a biker dude, bro, you know?
Yeah.
And she was like, I don't know why, but I just decided I was going to wear a dress on my 40th birthday, and it changed everything. It was like you know what I mean? And she comes from a culture. She's not from the United States. She's from a different culture where there's no language for any of that. So it was just like, I'm just going to try putting on a dress. I don't know why. And then she was like, oh, wait, this is who I am. So, you know, there are different trans experiences, but when we have children, we have to believe them, you know?
Right.
If you don't believe a kid, it sets them up for so much hardship and so much pain. It's like, forget about it.
Yeah.
Again, don't get me started, because
No, we want you to get
go
started.
ahead.
you know, I do this work, and I think we all do this work. Why do we have pride? It's because we had shame, you know, and we have pride and we share our pride. So
That's
Well
true.
said.
That's absolutely it.
I like that.
Yeah.
So don't cause people to be ashamed of themselves. It's simple. Wear your mask. Don't cause people to be ashamed of themselves. You know?
We have
Yeah.
a history lesson today.
Be kind, rewind.
No, pretty much.
You know?
It is.
So Scott, you mentioned that you knew you were a boy at like the beginning of your time. So describe to our listeners out there who don't know the timeline that you went from being when you went to transition into a boy and then your acting career, or did your acting career start before you transitioned?
Yeah, good question. So, like I said, it was always this kind of dual flame, right? Where I very much had I had this performance bug. And so I was always doing acting classes and doing this school theater or whatever, right? And when I got to college, I was very professional about it. I went to Emory, which actually has a unknown but really amazing acting program. And very professionally oriented. You work with a professional theater company as your like classes and all of your experience. So like you start really getting experience at that time. And I was doing really well in my classes. I could obviously do the work, but I wasn't getting cast in roles because they were doing very traditional theater, and not just like traditional like Shakespeare, but like traditionally gendered work. Like there weren't roles for people like me. And what was a blessing about it was, and this was, I don't ever reveal my age, but this was a long time before any of this happened, before the world changed in the way that it has. The teachers just recognized that it was unfair that I could be doing so well in my classes and not have a real world experience of having a lead role in a play, simply because my gender expression didn't match the characters that they were casting. And so one of my teachers said, look, you can't like wait for a role to be written for you. Sometimes you got to write your own. And I know I'm speaking to everybody here, right?
Word. And then became pride.
So, so I did. I wrote my first one-man show. It ended up being my honors thesis, and the program gave me my very own production so that I could have an experience being a lead actor and have all those, the scrutiny of an audience and all of that stuff. And I performed it during winter. It was like the beginning of winter break for a lot of other schools. So a bunch of kids from other schools had already come home to Atlanta and they saw the performance. And by spring break of senior year, I was touring. And I toured that show for 9 years. It was amazing. So it kind of happened both at the same time in that way, even though they were kind of at odds.
But that's so kismet, though. That's like, what a hell of a story.
Right. And, it's not for nothing that I wrote my own story. And my very first one-man show is called Underground Transit. I have a book called Two Truths and a Lie, and it's the 3 performance scripts of my one-man show. And so Underground Transit is in there. And it was, now I look at it and I was like, oh, it was like a non-binary manifesto, really. But it was, this like me sort of figuring it out artistically, right? Figuring out how to talk about this experience of gender that I was living. And so I was speaking my truth, right? So you have a trans actor speaking their truth, being supported to put it in front of an audience, and it's a success.
Mm-hmm. So has being transgendered in the industry hurt you at all? Because it seems like it's helped you, because you were just freaking nominated for an Emmy and your work in Studio City. Like, that's huge.
Sure, but I wasn't nominated for an Emmy because I'm trans. I was nominated for an Emmy because a group of my performing peers voted for me as a good actor. That
Yes.
You're here.
They weren't like, he's good at being transgender, right?
Right.
Which, let's be clear, I'm fabulous at it. But and that was the thing about the Emmy, was that was like the real recognition there, where because the people who vote for the Emmys are not trans people. They're not even really allies. Let's I mean, many people are, but like, that's not what they're centered around. They're centered around, did you do a good acting job? And we're gonna use that. And so I think it's more of an accomplishment to know that the world has all the biases, from benign and just ignorant to full out hate, right? Mm-hmm. To have to push against all of that and still get through this tiny little door of the Emmys, like, that says a lot to me, right? Because there's no, sadly, there should be affirmative action in this work, because it is so white and it is so hetero and it is so cis. Like, those are the people who make up those institutions. There should be help for those of us, but there isn't. So, but to tell you, it has been hard. I did one-man shows because there were no roles, right? And even when transgender roles would come up, they'd put cisgender people in them. Right. So I couldn't even audition for the transgender, for the like 2 transgender roles in 5 years that would come up. And by the way, like, no one, I'm going to name one for you. Boys Don't Cry. Name 2 more big trans masculine stories. I'll wait. Right? So that hurts me, that it definitely hurts me. It hurts anyone to be a minority when mainstream media is only invested in showing itself to itself. If we're not in the mainstream, we're not going to be shown, which I think is changing now, but
for sure.
Yeah, I think so as well. And I think it's really, I will say, kind of going back to what Braden said about the Emmys, what's so great is they are at a place where they are recognizing minorities. Because I think that years ago, they were called out for, not recognizing people of color, LGBT people in the entire spectrum. And it's always a first time in ever that we have a Black woman and lead actress nominated since 1987. It's like, what? First time a Black man has won lead actor, when James Reynolds won years ago. And it's like, for me, those first, and I know there was a lot of press around you as your first, but kind of speaking on that, you've been a part of the daytime family for a long time. Not even speaking of Pride, but you made groundbreaking as the role of Nick in Bold and the Beautiful. It was such a life-changing story. And my question to you is, number one, how did you feel getting that part? And the second part to that question is, how did you feel when they just dropped that storyline without any type of follow-up? Do you feel it was for this press, for what they wanted to get from it, or do you feel like it could have done more?
Well, so, I mean, obviously getting the role was amazing because it was my first big break in television, right?
Yeah.
And I think for any actor, no matter who you are, when you get that access, it's amazing. It's a dream come true, right?
Yeah.
And then you wake up into this dream come true, and it's reality, and reality isn't perfect, right? And the way that the storyline was handled, first of all, I have to say, there was a big piece of it that I loved, which was that they were focusing on Maya's family, a Black family, figuring out how to love and be a family with a transgender person in it. And that is still ahead of its time. You know what I mean? Until Pose hit, like that. I mean, even Pose,
Yeah.
like, they're not dealing with their families in Pose. They are their family in Pose, right?
Right.
So in some ways, I just think that they did something so big, that they didn't have to do. They did it right and well, as right as they could, because they couldn't make Carla Mosley a trans woman, right?
Right.
Right. But like besides that, and I think because of the timing of it, they got to a place where they just didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
And the thing about daytime is, man, you don't even get 3 takes. They don't spend a lot of time.
No.
They have
One
to
take.
write that, you know what I mean? Like, they have to just go. And I think that, I just didn't, let me tell you this. The experience that I had on The Bold and the Beautiful was really excellent. I saw all of these professionals by choice, right? Not by ratings, because in 2015, nobody was getting more ratings for having a trans story. Like, to be a trailblazer is a dangerous spot because you only have things to lose, okay?
Right.
So they took that risk. They did it right. They did it well. Everyone on that set was trained, took super good care, gave me a lot of space and artistic ability, right? So they, artistic input, I should say, like if something felt wrong, right? Like I could say so, which most actors don't get the opportunity to do, right? And so if it were a set where they didn't really care, where they were just like, oh, whatever, let's put the T word out, and you know what I mean? Like if they when people don't care, and when they do, and they really did care. I just think they didn't know what to do. They got themselves into something much bigger than they realized, and they didn't know what to do, and they didn't have the resources of time to be able to really do that right and well. And I gotta tell you, I'd rather have somebody drop something if they're not going to do it right and well than to do it poorly.
Right.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
That makes sense.
And yeah, it was a bummer to not, have like 16 episodes, and I thought I was going to be there forever. I was so excited,
Yeah.
or at least I thought I would keep coming back. And like, no, so sure, it sucks, but that's just like regular Hollywood heartbreak anyway. It happens all the time. So
Yeah.
Word.
Well, you came over here and you joined us on Pride. So we had such an amazing time filming with you.
Yes.
You spoke a few moments ago about how there's been several projects, you were able to have input on. And, we definitely talked to you going into season 2 of Pride, and as we'll continue to do going forward, about the importance of, the transgender world and making sure we represent that correctly. What are one of your things that you're looking forward to, hopefully, when Pride comes back, as far as Leave goes?
I mean, I want to see what his life is, right? And we set up that tension right at the beginning, so I want to see like how's that going to play out, and we have good bones for this story, so I'm just looking forward to it really playing out,
Mm-hmm.
We all are.
Yeah, we're super excited to have you come back. It's, with COVID and everything, the world is insane right now, but we're hoping it all works out because people are ready to go back to work.
Well, or else you have to adapt, and we'll all do it through Zoom. I've been seeing, I don't know if you've noticed, I've been seeing so much good production stuff happening through Zoom. It's been wild, and while I don't really want it to be that way, the show must go on, right?
Literally.
Yeah, it must go on. I keep telling myself 2021 just has to be better. I don't know what's going to happen, but it has to be better. It has to be.
I mean, it's going to already be better than 2020.
Like, right. Like, by default.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, because 2020 just keeps getting worse and worse. Like,
no.
So hopefully it doesn't bleed into 2021. Sorry to be a negative Nancy.
He popped my bottle.
He did. He popped.
I'm with
blew
you.
out all my candles.
I don't. But here's I kind of like straddle between you both, right? Like, let's prepare for the worst, right? Like, pray to God, but row for shore. Right? Like, and here's the thing, even if it is worse, everybody's grown, everybody's learned a lot this year. We've all become stronger this year. So we'll at least be better in terms of being able to deal with it.
Yeah. We're mentally prepared, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, a lot more anyway.
Stronger
But
than
even-
yesterday.
Yeah, exactly.
As
And you
Britney.
As Britney Spears said, stronger than yesterday.
you know, free Britney.
Free Britney.
I think she did. Didn't her sister?
sister-
took over her like.
Her finances, at least.
Yeah.
I think her dad still has some kind of control, but we'll see.
Never let anybody in charge of you and you. I mean, that's such a lesson, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Jesus. So, Scott, you were just in Outfest, correct?
Yeah.
Yes. Tell us about that experience and the importance of being a part of becoming a man in 13 easy steps.
127. I wish it was
Which one?
only 13. But you're mixing up because we put so many on there. So this is really cool. And actually what's really exciting is they decided to do an encore. So everybody who's watching, you get to see this. You go to outfest.org and for 24 hours only, starting on September 7th, Becoming a Man in 127 Easy Steps is going to be available. It is, we would call it a choose your own adventure story, but that's a trademark term. So it's actually a pick your own path story. And
cool.
you get 27 different pieces, 27 different stories, which you click on and you might get a video, you might get a podcast episode, or you might get a PDF that pops up that you can read. So it's multimedia, because speaking with your own authentic voice is very important, right?
Yes.
And you get to choose how you experience. It's interactive. So you get to choose how you experience the stories, in what order, whether you want to watch, read, and listen to all of them, or you just want to follow a few. And it was really successful. People really loved it. People really enjoyed being able to make their own story as they went along. So I'd love it if you can take a look.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I love that.
That's so exciting.
I'm so proud of your project that you have. I know you had been working on that for quite some time, and I know that you're really, really proud of it. So I cannot wait to check it out. I cannot wait for our listeners to check it out. It's been so great to have family come with us today.
Always.
Thank you. Yeah,
it's so very much.
It's thank you for having me, and please, let's all just commit to taking care of ourselves and learning how to get stronger, so that no matter what comes, because you know what, stories are so important right now. And I'm going to tell you, we queer people, right, queer and trans folks, like, we are so important right now. We cannot fall off, right?
Absolutely.
No, we have to keep going.
We had a plague that decimated our numbers, and that means that our generation, I'm speaking for all of us in this talking right now, didn't have mentors. We got to stick around for the kids that come later. We got to be here making the world better, telling the good stories, and pushing, continuing to progress this movement that Pride is, So we got to stay healthy, wear your mask, and stay here.
Amen to that.
Amen. And Scott, please tell our listeners and viewers where they can find you on social media.
Look up Becoming a Man in 127 Easy Steps. Becoming a Man in 127 Easy Steps. That's Instagram, or 127 Steps on Facebook. And you can just look up my name. I'm on all the social media, Scott Turner Schofield. I would love to have your ear for a bit.
Yeah,
absolutely.
You can Google him.
And everyone, please check out his Emmy-nominated role on Studio City earlier this year. You can check that out now, and also you can go check him out on season 2 of Pride the Series on Amazon Prime.
Okay.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Scott. We
Thank you, Scott.
Yes,
Thank you. It's so good to see you.
You too. Be well. Take care. Okay, my friends.
We will.
Be
We
safe.
love you. Bye.